Okay, ready to dive into something big. We're talking decentralized content delivery and how it could change, well, everything.
Yeah, no more relying on the same old players. This is about putting control back where it belongs, with the users.
And the hash network seems to be leading the charge, right? Their white paper is like a roadmap to this whole new internet.
A roadmap, a blueprint, whatever you want to call it. It's a vision for a faster, more reliable, and way more open online experience.
Definitely. I mean, right now, trying to access decentralized content, it can be a real pain. It's clunky.
Totally. And it kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You want decentralization,
Yeah.
but then you end up relying on these individual gateway servers.
Which are basically just centralized points of failure. Right?
Exactly. And that's what the hash network is tackling head on. Their decentralized access layer changes the game.
So instead of hitting those roadblocks, imagine this: sharing files instantly without relying on those big name storage providers.
Seamlessly. Securely. Like having the freedom of decentralization with the speed and reliability we expect from, well, the internet as we know it.
That's the dream. But how do they actually make it happen?
It all starts with their DPIN layer. That's the decentralized physical infrastructure network. Think of it like the foundation.
The bedrock. Okay, tell me more about this DPIN.
Within DPIN, you've got two key players, gateway nodes and guardian nodes.
Gateway node, those are the entry points to the network, right?
Yeah, you can think of them kind of like traffic managers,
Yeah.
making sure data flows smoothly.
Hmm.
And they act as local caches, too.
Oh, so they're strategically placed so you're always getting the information quickly from the closest source.
Exactly. And then you've got the guardian nodes. They're like the guardians of the network, keeping everything secure and running as it should.
Okay, so gateway nodes speed things up, guardian nodes keep things safe. Got it.
They work in tandem.
What I find really interesting is that anyone can set up a node. Like, the white paper says even something as simple as a Raspberry Pi can do it.
Which is huge. It means you don't have to be some tech giant to contribute to this new internet. You can literally run a node from your home.
That's amazing. It truly democratizes things, doesn't it?
It does. But of course, a network is only as good as its trustworthiness, right?
Absolutely.
Uh-uh.
How do you build trust into a system that's, well, decentralized?
Smart contracts. And that's where the hash network's value layer comes into play.
Okay, smart contracts. I've heard the term, but to be honest, I still get a little lost.
I hear you. Think of them like digital enforcers. They're what guarantee that the content on the hash network is trustworthy and that it maintains its value over time.
So they're not just lines of code, they're like the foundation of trust for the whole system.
Exactly. And that's why they call it the value layer, because it's about more than just the technical stuff. It's about establishing a foundation of trust and reliability.
And that's what's been missing from a lot of decentralized platforms so far.
Often, yeah. And the hash network, they break this value layer down into three core functions: provenance, permanence, and prioritization.
Three big ideas. Let's start with provenance. What does that mean in this context?
So with provenance, you always know where a piece of content came from, its entire history.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a chain of custody for digital content. You can trace it back to the original source, see who's interacted with it.
And verify its authenticity. It's all recorded on the blockchain.
Which means it can't be tampered with. Wow.
Right. So concerns about misinformation or content being taken out of context, provenance tackles that head on.
Especially with how easy it is for fake news to spread these days. That's huge. So that's provenance. What about permanence? Is that about content disappearing?
Exactly. How frustrating is it to click a link and get that dreaded 404 page not found error?
The worst.
Yeah, and it happens all the time. But with the hash network, permanence is key. Those smart contracts, they guarantee your content is accessible long term.
So no more worrying about your data disappearing into the void because of a server issue or some company deciding to pull the plug.
That's the idea. The hash network is built to last.
Okay, that's huge. So we've got this content, it's permanent, it's verifiable, but the internet is already drowning in content. How do you even find anything?
That's where the third piece of the puzzle comes in: prioritization. The hash network uses smart contracts to make sure the most relevant information is easy to find.
So it's not just about storing things forever, it's about organizing them in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. It's like, imagine a library where the books are not only always there, but they're also organized in a way that prioritizes the most valuable and sought-after works.
And how do they decide what's valuable? Isn't that subjective?
Well, instead of relying on some central authority to decide, the hash network taps into the collective wisdom of the network. Content is prioritized based on things like how often it's accessed, how recent it is, even how much engagement it receives.
It's like a living, breathing library that's constantly evolving based on what people find most useful and interesting.
I like that analogy. And this is all part of that value layer we were talking about.
Yeah.
It ensures that the network is not just a vast repository of data, but a dynamic and accessible source of information.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest, even if the content is organized, actually finding specific things on decentralized platforms, it's not exactly user-friendly, is it? All those long strings of letters and numbers.
Right? Nobody wants to deal with that. That's why they came up with the hash name system. Imagine all your decentralized content accessible with a simple, memorable .hash.is domain.
Hold on, so instead of some impossible to remember string of characters, I could have something like my-travel-blog.hash.is.
Precisely. And that domain, it could be your website, your photos, your articles, whatever you want.
So it's like having a regular website address, but for all your decentralized content.
Exactly. Simple, elegant, easy to use. And that's a big part of what the hash network is all about, making decentralization accessible to everyone.
And it's not just about making it accessible to use, right? They've actually created tools that let anyone participate in building this new internet.
Absolutely. They've got something called WebHash. It's a no-code platform, so you can build entire websites just by dragging and dropping elements. You don't need any coding experience whatsoever.
Wait, even I could build a website on WebApp.
Exactly, that's the beauty of it. They've removed the technical barriers that prevent so many people from sharing their ideas online. But they also know that some people love to code and want more control, so...
So there's something for the developers, too.
Of course. WebHash Pro. It's a platform as a service, or PI, specifically for developers. It gives them the tools and flexibility to build really sophisticated, decentralized websites and applications.
So WebHash for the everyday user, WebHash Pro for the more tech-savvy crowd. I love it. They're really trying to cover all the bases, huh?
They are. And to make it even easier to navigate this new internet, they have this Chrome extension called the HashedWeb Gateway. It makes browsing the decentralized web just as seamless as what you're used to.
Okay, this is all sounding amazing, but there's one big question that always comes up with decentralized platforms. How do you deal with bad actors? I mean, without any central authority, who's making sure the content is appropriate and legal?
It's a big one, and it's something the Hash Network takes very seriously. They address it with what's called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization.
Okay, more acronyms. What exactly is a DAO, and how does it help with content moderation on the Hash Network?
Imagine a self-governing community with shared rules and goals. That's essentially what a DAO is. In this case, the Hash Network's DAO is responsible for setting the standards for content and making decisions about moderation.
So it's not a free-for-all. There are rules even in this decentralized world.
Absolutely. And those rules are determined and upheld by the community itself, not by some corporation or government.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this DAO actually moderate content? It's not like they can just take down a post or ban someone from the platform.
Right. It's all about transparency and consensus. Every single decision made by the DAO is recorded on the blockchain.
So there's a permanent tamper-proof record of every action taken.
Exactly. And because it's all out in the open, it keeps everyone accountable.
That makes sense. But how are those decisions made in the first place? Who gets to decide what's acceptable and what's not?
That's where the decentralized part comes in. Every token holder in the Hash Network gets a say in how the DAO operates.
So it really is a community-driven system, decisions made by the people for the people. But I have to ask, all this talk about DAOs and smart contracts, it sounds pretty complex. What does it actually mean for the average person using this new internet?
Well, imagine a world where you're not just a user, you're in control. You own your data. You decide who gets to see it. No more big tech companies tracking your every move or selling your information to the highest bidder.
Okay, more control, more privacy. I think everyone can get behind that. But let's be real, one of the biggest hurdles for decentralized platforms has been actually getting people to use them. I mean, will this new internet be as fast and reliable as what we're used to?
That's where the Hash Network's focus on speed and efficiency comes in. Remember those gateway nodes?
The traffic managers, yeah.
Right. They're strategically placed to make sure you're always connected to the fastest route, delivering that content as quickly as possible.
So no more buffering for hours just to watch a 2-minute video. That would be nice.
Hopefully a thing of the past. And because the Hash Network is built on this global network of nodes, it's incredibly resilient. If one node goes down, no problem, your content is still accessible through countless others. It's like having a backup generator for the entire internet.
Okay, now that's impressive. But ingrained habits die hard, right? People are used to the way things are. Are they really going to switch to a whole new internet, even with all these benefits?
Think about how much the internet has changed, even just in the last decade. We went from, like, being afraid to type in our credit card information online to ordering takeout from our phones without a second thought.
That's true. Things change fast.
Exactly. Change is inevitable, especially when it offers more control, more privacy, and overall just a better experience.
So you're saying this could be one of those paradigm shifts that changes everything about how we live, work, interact online.
I think the potential is there. People are definitely hungry for an alternative.
Oh, for something better.
Exactly. And the Hash Network is giving them that.
Well, I have to say, this has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive. I'm excited about the possibilities here.
Me too.
But we've thrown a lot of information at our listeners today. What's that one thought-provoking question you wanted to leave them with?
We've talked about the tech, the user experience, all of that. But what about the bigger picture? What if this vision of a decentralized internet actually becomes a reality? How could it change society? How we interact with information, with businesses, with each other?
It's almost like we're on the verge of a whole new world. A lot to think about there.
Definitely.
Well, if you're as intrigued by the Hash Network as we are, we encourage you to check out their white paper. It's a fascinating read.
It really is. And who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to join the movement toward a more decentralized world.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the Hash Network. We hope you enjoyed the journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.